Ada Garcia-Casellas earned her Bachelor's of Science from City College of New York and her Master's of Arts and Education Master's in Counseling Psychology from Teachers College, Columbia University. Ada began her counseling career in higher education at Fordham University, Lincoln Center, then at Borough of Manhattan Community College. She was Director of Continuing Education at St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia for 10 years. Ada was a counselor at Northern Virginia Community College before coming to Montgomery College's Germantown campus.
Professor Ada Garcia-Casellas is a counselor, Center for International and Multicultural Student Development on our Germantown campus. Ada earned her BA from City College in New York and her MA and EDM in Counseling and Psychology from Teachers College, Columbia University. Ada began her counseling career in higher education at Fordham University, Lincoln Center, and the Borough of Manhattan Community College. She was Director of Continuing Education at St. Joseph's University, Philadelphia for 10 years. She was a counselor at Northern Virginia Community College before coming to Montgomery College, Germantown campus. And we welcome Ada. Thank you very much.
Hi, thanks for hanging with us, everyone. Thank you. As Mimi said, I am a counselor, and I teach DS 107, which is a student development course. It's the first year seminar for new students where we prepare them for their next 4 years in college. And so it was a little challenging to teach DS 107 study skills and incorporate the race theme, but I did it, and I think I did it successfully. The problem with DS 107 is that it is a 1-credit optional class. And so students, first day can just drop out. First day I said to them that it was mandatory that they go to the museum and that they had an opportunity to withdraw from the class, but if they didn't withdraw, they would have to hang with me. And not one withdrew, not one, which was amazing. I have to read my notes. So I expanded on the theme, and I created a post-racial society, developing a global perspective in a nation of immigrants. That was, let's see if this works. So I just had 4 goals. One was to sort of prod students to examine the assumption of a post-racial society and its significance in a nation of immigrants. And I told them the first day that we're all immigrants except for the American Indian. And they just looked at me like I was insane. But so that was one thing we discussed. Also, the theme allowed me to center my discussions around current events. And last summer, I collected a lot of articles on race. And there was a lot of stuff going on last summer. So that was a great opportunity. Lots of material for discussion. We were able to examine Montgomery College as a microcosm of our society at large. I collected great demographics and material and statistics on our students and how they really do mirror our society. Let's see. We also, my project was, I had 4 parts to it. One was the museum visit. That was the first one. And they had to, I chose the exhibit, and that was the Norman Rockwell exhibit from the collection of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg at the American Art Museum. Unfortunately, it's not there anymore, but they were assigned to that one. And because it was a 1-credit class, I didn't want to make this too heavy. So I chose Norman Rockwell because I love Norman Rockwell. But also I thought it would be interesting for the students to see the art that really does hang in Steven Spielberg and George Lucas walls. But also I wanted them to observe what wasn't there. And what wasn't there was the absence of race and the absence of people of color in this entire exhibit. And this just tells you what we did in class. I mean, we had discussions from the lyrics of South Pacific to a video, Shift Happens. It was quite interesting. And so that's the 4 things I had them do. So I did want them to see what wasn't there, and most of them did see that. I also had them write a paper at the museum. When they finished, they had a handout, which I wanted to know what their emotional reaction was to what they saw, and whether or not this exhibit did address or did not the post-racial theme. And that's my friend Norman Rockwell. And so what they had to do was museum visit, the handout, the final project. Instead of a final exam, I had them think about their views on post-racial and are we post-racial, and write a one-page paper, but also bring an object to class, something physical that they can show to support their opinion as to whether or not we're moving in a post-racial manner. They brought everything in from, you know, cereal boxes with Dora the Explorer to the New York Times wedding section where people were intermarrying. So it was quite interesting what they brought. In the exhibit, the only piece of artwork that had anything having to do with race was this one right here, which is called Proud Possessor. And it really depicts the child with the dog. His mom doesn't want him to keep that dog, and so he tells his friend, I will give you this, will you take my dogs? And the response was, I will take your dogs if you give me your pocket knife. So when students read this, the summary at the bottom, they were shocked. First, that this was the only painting with people of color, but secondly, that was so stereotypic. And so I'm glad they did pick up on that. That was great. And mostly, actually, I taught 2 sections of DS 107. One had mainstream, you know, mostly Anglo students. My other section had international students. The international students were the ones that picked up on that mostly, on the stereotype. And so that was the fourth thing, was just that they had to write a one-page paper describing their object in detail, how their object or their project reflects their views on the class theme. And they had to talk about whether or not their opinions on race changed as a result of my class. Incorporating a theme for me was the first time. I mean, and I said it was challenging to sort of have a theme on race in the study skills class, but it allowed me to bring them out of their comfort zones, to give them assignments and have them do research using ProQuest on articles having to do with race. They also sort of learned how to get an article summarized and discuss it in front of a class. And they had to think about race, which they don't normally think or talk about. And we were able to examine current events. And I found this wonderful website where it talks about Norman Rockwell painted from 1918 to 1972. So he had a really prolific life. And I found this website where we were able to look at, in decades, what was happening in the 1920s and 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and what kind of literature, what were people reading, what music were they listening to, what fashion. It's a great website. It's actually not here, it's on the main website of the Smithsonian Fellows. And so we also watched a video called Shift Happens, where students we were able to discuss, you know, who is your competition? This world is now global, and how are you responding to that? And who will be the next Bill Gates? You know, who do you think the next Bill Gates will be? And they were like, oh, me. No, well, maybe it's, you know, a female in China, and she's being groomed for this right now. So you really need to think about where you're going and what you're learning and how committed you are to it. So it was sort of an opportunity to bring in not only race, but lots of other wonderful aspects to this class. For me, you know, I love the Smithsonian. I mean, when I applied for it, I had always wanted to apply to the Faculty Fellows Program and didn't, because I thought I'm a counselor, not a sort of an English professor. But I'm very committed to the Smithsonian, and it has been just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I'm envious of those who will stay on for 2011, and I'm sure that you will find it equally satisfying. Anyway, thanks so much.